Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Today, I'm going to be joined by the incredible Natalie Ellis, a mom, CEO, and powerhouse entrepreneur. She's the founder of BossBabe, a global community of over 4 million women, host of the chart-topping BossBabe podcast, and creator of CEO Mama, a private network of entrepreneurial moms. Natalie is passionate about building freedom-based businesses that support, not sacrifice, what matters most. With expertise in marketing, community building, and life business harmony, she's here to share her journey and so much wisdom with us. I cannot wait to talk to her. I'm joined today by the inspiring Natalie Ellis. She's a mom, she's a CEO, and serial entrepreneur. She's the founder of BossBabe, the host of the chart-topping BossBabe podcast, and creator of CEO Mama, a network for entrepreneurial moms. Natalie's on a mission to help women build successful, freedom-filled lives without sacrificing what matters most. Welcome to my podcast, Natalie.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so you're literally the founder of BossBabe, and maybe you even coined the term. But why did you create this amazing company, and what's your mission behind it?
I created it because I started my first company while I was at university. And back then, I was building off the back of Google. We didn't have all the online courses and access to mentorship that we have now. And I just saw a real gap back then. You know, I'd log into Instagram and the only kind of motivation I was seeing was men in suits. And we just decided to do things very, very differently. We decided to show our ambition and be really unapologetic about it, but not lose our femininity when we're doing it and do it our way. And it was a movement that just completely took off. I didn't realize there would be so much demand for it. And it's really just grown very organically since then.
So what is BossBabe and what do you do?
Yeah, so BossBabe is a media company primarily. We have all of our media platforms, and then on back end, we have an amazing membership that we've been running now for over 7 years, where we support women in building freedom-based businesses. They get an amazing curriculum, coaching programs, community. And on top of that, we have an accelerator program where if someone's really looking to build a funnel in their business and build that sales engine, they come and work with us for 8 weeks, and we open that once or twice a year.
Awesome. So in your own life, were you always a boss babe?
I've always been like this. You know, I was the kid that has the very generic story. I was like selling candy to my neighbors. I was always thinking of entrepreneurial things. We didn't grow up with a lot, and I had a really turbulent childhood. And I think for me, I always saw having my own business and having my own independence as a way out, in a way of creating something that I didn't see my mum having. And so from a very, very young age, I think I was very motivated by that. And over time, you know, that's changed, but I was inherently very driven and motivated.
Wow. So now in your life, handling motherhood and, you know, partnership, how does that drive, you know, get channeled? And does it sometimes wear you down? And talk to us about the behind the scenes of how that fatigue can sometimes be a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I first had my daughter, I didn't realize just how much my business was requiring of me, because when all I was focused on was myself, my marriage, my business, it all felt very manageable. And I didn't realize how much giving birth to my daughter would change everything I ever cared about. And I know you hear that a lot, but it really did. It just fundamentally shifted for me how much time I want to be spending at work, you know, what my work needs to fulfill in me or energize in me. And it shifted a lot about the way that I work. And I actually stepped back from my company for quite a long time and paused and reevaluated and thought about what a new version of this looks like. And so I work very differently now. And my work, I'm not ashamed to say, is my second priority now. I love what I do. I absolutely love it. And I love being a mother. And I'm pregnant right now. I have a toddler. I'm in that season. And what I've personally found, and I'm not saying this is the right way, but for me personally, I have found it a lot easier to manage the demands of both when I am present where my feet are. And if I'm really clear on what my priorities are in each season, I feel like I can show up in a much more present way. Whereas when I feel like there's a lot of competing priorities and I'm trying to be everything to everyone, that's where I notice I feel guilty. And that's where I notice a lot of things creep in that don't feel good, and I don't believe in the balance. I really believe in the harmony. But when I feel like I have a lot of competing priorities, that harmony feels unachievable. So that's something that I'm still learning, but I've been really on that journey since my daughter was born.
Isn't it shocking how children just fundamentally like shift us, pivot us, especially as women? So what I've noticed a lot in this culture, in this present modern day, young women really struggling with this boss babe idea. They think that to be a boss babe, you have to have a fantastic career, but then kind of judge or shun motherhood. So embracing motherhood, or say you didn't want to go back to boss babe, say you decided, you know what, I just love being a mom. That feels like a downgrade in today's culture, almost like women feel like they'll be judged, or I'm just a stay-at-home mom, like they'll say it like that. And I feel like that's so sad, because motherhood is in itself not only the biggest career, the biggest job, the biggest everything, but it's also so fulfilling in and of itself, and we don't have to explain that. Did you find that for yourself and a little bit of struggle there?
Stepping back was challenging, more so because I felt like I was addicted to work. I had not stopped and taken such a big break. I hadn't given myself that opportunity. And I feel like I was working through work addiction. And that was really, really challenging. And there were a lot of new things in motherhood that didn't come naturally to me. It didn't come naturally for me to sit and play for hours and be present with my daughter. And those things, for someone that's very high achieving and can do anything they set their mind to be challenged by something as quote unquote simple as play was really challenging for me. And I decided to face it head on. I really decided to sit with the discomfort of it and find out how to get present and find out how to be able to turn the work brain off. And that was a really beautiful practice for me. And it wasn't easy by any stretch. I don't know that I would have felt ashamed by just if I had chosen to not go back to the business and stay in motherhood, because I see so much value in that. I don't think there's anything more important to me than bringing my daughter up and making sure she feels securely attached. And at the same time, as time has gone on, I've really been able to integrate, well, how do I show up as a really full mother? How do I show up in my full presence and fully lit up and energized and what matters to me, and getting clear on my core values? And I've realized that I do need a purpose outside of the home. For me personally, that's not the case for everyone. And I don't really love that society makes women feel like if they are not doing 1,000,001 things, if they are not performing like superwoman, they are somehow wrong. I see so much value in that. And I have so much respect for the women that choose to channel their ambition and into their home and get that level of fulfillment. I think it's incredible. And I also love to say I reserve the right to change my mind. Right now I'm really enjoying working a certain amount and being at home at a certain amount, but I've got a baby on the way and I'm very much planning to take time off and slow down. And I reserve the right to change my mind. Maybe I want to be home more. I don't know. I think going into my first pregnancy, I thought I knew everything. And now I realize I really don't know. I'm going to change with every baby that I bring into this world. I'm at a place where I give myself permission to do that. And as long as I'm comfortable with that decision, I trust everyone else will be. And I wish more women could get to that point and have that level of confidence in the path that they choose.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unusual that you have so much confidence, and I'm so proud of you. I've written now, 7 books, and I have 2 more coming out next year on this whole idea of being present. And when I started my parenting journey, and the reason I founded Conscious Parenting is because I too saw what a struggle it was to just sit down and play. And it feels like such a trivial thing to do, but it is impossible for us adults because, like you said, we get addicted to the achievement, to the external, to the goal, to the product. And children really demand us to just be here now. And it doesn't have to look glamorous, and there's no photo shoot, and you don't post it on Instagram, and there's no, stock valuation that's going to happen from your 3 hours of doing absolute rubbish, right? Quote unquote rubbish. But what you are doing is exactly learning how to be. And children give us the pathway to access a part of us that we have, stayed in denial of, because somewhere along the way you equated doing and you were so good at it that also became your worth. And now you're finding worth here. So it's not so much even confidence that women have. It's that they really see that their worth doesn't have to be the external, right? And you're reserving the right. You're like, I may not want to come back to that kind of identity. And you're giving yourself the flexibility because you found worth in the not doing. And many people don't find worth in the not doing, but you allowed yourself to find the real worth, which is in the not doing,
Yeah, and it's so interesting too, because when I was in all of this and figuring it all out, what I realized myself, which I think probably a lot of people can relate to, I was the eldest of 8 children and I took care of my brothers and sisters. I grew up in a household with addiction and substance abuse, and I grew up in a household where I had to grow up very, very fast. There was no space for a lot of play and a lot of unstructure. My nervous system was on high alert. And so from a very young age, I stopped playing and I got into doing mode. I got into responsibility mode. And that just became my operating system. And so when I had my daughter, I almost went back. In fact, I did go back into a season of reparenting myself and noticing what I didn't have and where actually I feel where our discomfort is, it shows us a lot about ourselves. My discomfort with play and unstructured time, and that showed me a lot about where I could do some work. And it's not easy work, it's not comfortable work. But I think a lot of people can relate to that. Not all of us did have childhoods where we could play and we didn't have a care in the world. A lot of us had childhoods where we actually had to care from a really young age. And if we're not careful, I think that can become our identity for our entire adult life.
Yes.
And I personally just didn't want that for myself.
Yeah, that is incredible. So you grew up as the eldest of 8 children. You must have picked up, because you're so smart, very quickly that you needed to kind of manage life and you needed to figure this out fast. Did you have that sense of like, I need to be the adult here, I need to be the leader? And that's why the word boss babe, you figured out you need to be the boss of your own life, and in a way your innocence was taken from you because you were placed as the parent, or semi-parent. And it's so funny, right? It's ironical, but not so ironical that the term boss babe is you reclaiming, like I'm going to be my own person. And that's been your whole movement.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up with a mom that, like I said, there was substance abuse in my house, domestic violence. My mom had mental health issues. I was really responsible from a very young age, and I had to take care of my brothers and sisters from a very young age. But what I also saw at a young age was my mum in a very difficult situation because what I saw, she couldn't afford to leave it. And so I thought, you know what, if I take control of my own life and I get my own independence, I won't ever have to be in that situation. And that was a beautiful driver for me in the beginning. And a big part of Boss Babe has always been unapologetic ambition, really standing for what you believe in and what you care about and building your own independence. And along the way, as I've gotten older and integrated it more, I've realized it can mean so many different things. And we have so many amazing stay-at-home moms in our community that really resonate with our community, with our content, because it's not necessarily about what you're doing, but it is how you are living your life and how you're doing the work to be the best version of you. And I don't think there's a blueprint for any of us of the best version. Some people want to be a CEO, some want to be a stay-at-home mom, some want to be neither. And there's no blueprint, but are you living what's truly your best version? And I think that feels really important to me to be able to help others do that.
Yeah, that's really, really so incredible. And isn't it funny that so much of what looks like glamour or success or reaching the pinnacle really comes as a trauma response, right? As a way to compensate for something that we don't have. And you managed to do it in a healthy way. You managed to also see the addictive part of it. And you are now, because of your relationship with your child, pulling yourself back, expanding, shifting, pivoting. Many of the, say narcissistic leaders we see in our world today, they're unable to pull back. And they too, though, were once children who felt like, oh my God, my worth needs to come from being the king of the world. You know, that's what I need to do. But the rest of us sometimes misguidedly think of that as the way to be, not realizing the behind the scenes. Like, look, Natalie was trying to reclaim her life because it was in a way kind of taken from her. And that's her story. And when you understand someone's story, you don't necessarily pedestalize it or think that you should ape it. And that's what you're trying to do in Boss Babe. Like, don't ape me. Find your own meaning, your own calling, because it's going to look very different for everybody.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about my childhood whenever I'm talking about my journey and my success, because I could very well just try and pretend that I was just motivated and smart and etc. It was a trauma response, and it's beautiful in a way that it served me and it's helped me to create a life beyond my wildest dreams. And there's a way to do it in a healthy way. And I think by talking about how we might be, leaning into work as a trauma response or leaning into work as just a learned pattern, we can think about, is this intentional? Is this the way I want to do it? Or do I want to pivot and change and do things differently? And so I just think it's so important to talk about it because, like you said, we have no idea how anyone grew up. We have no idea what their success looks like behind the scenes. We see the highlight reel on Instagram, and I don't want anyone to ever aspire to my highlight reel without realizing there's so much that goes on behind the scenes.
We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have more with the incredible Natalie Ellis. This culture has become so hungry and a slave for achievement and wealth and, like you said, the highlight reel. And that really is sometimes, very often, most often, just a thirst to fill the void. And the truth is to feel complete sitting on the floor with a toddler. And that's why parenting is so humbling, because if you can do that with a toddler, which makes no sense, there's no point to it, there's no point. And our whole culture is about finding the point. What's the point? What's the mission? What's the intention? Guess what? Sometimes the mission and intention is just about being and entering your stillness and connecting. And we've lost that art. And that's why I call children the gurus of their parents and the awakeners of parents, because in their ability to be in the present, not in the past, not in the future. I mean, you see toddlers are the masters of being in their feelings. They just are in their feelings and then they get out of it like psychos. Like you go like, hello, you were just a raving lunatic. What happened to you? Because they do it, they feel it, they're not ashamed. It works through them. They process it and then they go on to the next thing. And now they're here. And we are still stuck on like, but you pulled my hair and you said, I hate you, mommy. We're still stuck in the past, right? This is why children can wake us up. And if mothers especially lose this window, 0 to 6, in the search for achievement and glory on the outside, they're losing some of the biggest lessons, you know?
I know. And I feel like it's almost taboo to say this, but it's like I see a lot of people so willing to go on the 10-day silent retreat and the guided this and the guided that. And sometimes it's right in front of you. What if you just sit on the floor and play with your toddler and see how uncomfortable it is to not know the time?
How uncomfortable.
To not be checking your phone.
Yes.
It's all such powerful work. And that's why I'm always so blown away when anyone disrespects a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I just think you've clearly never done it for a day.
Yes.
Because if you think what they do is easy, I'm lucky enough to have an incredible nanny. And I say to her at least once a week, I'm in awe of you.
Yeah.
She plays all day, every day. And she's so present with my daughter. We nanny share with one of my friend's sons. She's so present with them. And I'm always asking her questions. How did you learn this?
Yeah.
How do you switch your mind off? And there's so much I get to learn from her. So I'm just blown away when anyone can think that that's not an incredibly hard job, because most of us couldn't do it.
Yeah, it should be actually like part of every job description, especially for political offices. Like go sit with a toddler. First do that, because then you will be humble, present, still, kind, compassionate, connected, empathic. Once a woman came to me, one of my clients, and she was looking for a nanny. She said, what should I look for? And I said, the main thing is the ability for the nanny to be truly connected and empathic and kind and compassionate and still. Like she needs to have a stillness about her. And she was like, oh my God, I was looking for all the opposite things. So I said, what were you looking for? She said, oh, I wanted her to teach her math enrichment and language development and be productive and creative and do projects. And I said, this is the Western model of like this kind of control, achievement, go, 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 which is not what children need. And I'm so glad that you're honoring that stay-at-home mom being the CEO of BossBabe, because we don't want women and young women to grow up thinking that they should deny that maternal instinct, that they should split off from their feminine, that they should close that, giving heart. Some of the most beautiful things we can ever do in our life is to raise our children,
Yeah.
And of course, for those who don't want to do it, no shame there either,
Yeah. And that's it. I think one of the best things I did for myself was give myself the choice.
Yeah.
And I also understand, not everyone has the choice. Not everyone has the choice of whether they want to stay at home with their kids or pursue something that means something to them. But I had the choice and I sat in the choice. I didn't by default say, well, I'm going to keep running my company because I've always done that. Or I really sat with both, and I continue to reserve the right to change my mind, because we're all parents for the first time. We're figuring it out as we go along, and we're also individual. We don't know what we need to feel fulfilled and excited and our best self. And so I'm trying in my journey. It wasn't always this way, but I'm really trying to give myself the grace to just figure it out and lean into that choice. And that seems to be working for me right now. Ask me again when I have my next child, how my mindset shifts. I don't know.
That's so amazing. It should shift. It should change. We get so scared that, you said, I may reserve the right to change my mind. Like as if we have to warn people. And I understand that because people pigeon us and then they expect us to stay that. But no, you have every right to change yourself, cut your hair, change your career, drop everything, be the best mom, go away for weeks at a time. It's really in our destiny. And, when I got a divorce, I felt like I had to explain myself, like, as if I couldn't. And it wasn't about like, oh, I just changed my mind. Obviously, it was huge. But I have a right to get out of a relationship. Like it felt like I had done the worst thing in the world. Because again, we so pigeonhole institutions and we judge people. And we need to have the flexibility to move in and out, and you can move in and out of your sexuality. You can move in and out of your identity. So I really love, you're so wise for being someone so young. You're so smart. You're just wise, period. Tell me some of the most come to Jesus harrowing moments as a mom where you really saw, damn, I need to work on this old shit, like this old stuff, this old crap. I need to really work on my past baggage. Was there a moment that your daughter reflected something that touched you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest moments I remember was when I walked away from my company. So she was 6 months old and she had her first flu, which you'll know, just as a first-time parent, it's just the hardest thing in the world to see your child not feeling well like that. And when I came back after a very short maternity leave, I just slotted back into my company as if nothing ever changed. I'd never changed, my calendar was back to back with meetings, demands, all of the things. So this week she had the flu. And I felt like the story I was telling myself is the meetings on my calendar couldn't be changed. They were really important. I had to be there. So there was this one Zoom meeting that I was on in my office, and her nursery is next door to my office. So I'm on this call. Wasn't a very enjoyable call, to say the least. And I could hear her crying for me next door. And the only way I can describe it is I drifted out of my body and I just looked at myself. And I just looked at myself sitting on the Zoom call. My daughter's crying next door. And I just heard the words, I quit, come out of my mouth. I quit. I'm done. I stepped down as CEO. I can't do this anymore. I had a co-founder at the time. And I just had this realization of, look around, Natalie, you have everything you've ever wanted. You have a beautiful marriage. You have a beautiful home, a healthy child. And yet, look at what you're doing. You are sacrificing so much just for more, for the pursuit of more. For what? So I quit and I fully walked away from the company for 9 months. And that was a whole thing. And I ended up, me and my co-founder went our separate ways because we just had different visions at that point. And I really had to honor mine. But I've never been able to unsee that point, and I've never been able to go back from that. I really had to reckon with, I had been running my company and running my life as if I still didn't have enough. Whereas I had enough for so many years. I had all of the things that I wanted. I just kept chasing this pursuit of more. And I think I was seeing it on Instagram. I was seeing it in my friendship group. And it felt like this unwritten expectation And having that awareness just changed everything. And that's why, you know, I know what my priorities are and I know where I want to be present. And I'm not afraid to cancel something on my calendar if my daughter needs me. If I want to go, like right now, if I want to take a pregnancy nap, I'm not afraid to let people down. But I was a people pleaser. I was chasing more. I was always looking for the next goal. And so much of that was just automated in me. It wasn't something I'd ever examined. But I think once you see it, it's very hard to unsee it.
Wow. And this is why, these intimate relationships, it could be with just a lover, with your mother, but with a child, it really fundamentally transforms a woman, I think, even more than a man. You listened to it, you heard it, you saw the absurdity of your life, and you took an action. That takes a lot of courage. Many people simply cannot break out of patterns and disrupt their previous identity. We're so afraid to give up who we were, and you curated that identity for so many years. But you allowed the new experience to teach you. And that's the beauty of big experiences like motherhood. They can just open you up to ways, and then watch. The next child is going to fundamentally alter you again. And then when the first one reaches teenagehood, now you have a new child. Every day you have a new child, right? They're always changing. But when you have a teenager, you have a new child. My daughter's 21. I feel like, damn. Now I have a new child because she's an adult. I don't know how to do this. I've never been a mother to an adult. What does that look like? And that's the beauty of life, really, is these transformations, if we allow them, But you're really brave. What would you say women of today, like you're watching the next group of 30-year-olds come behind you, what do you feel like they could learn from? And where do you see them getting stuck on some false cultural messaging?
Well, I think what you said was really powerful, if you allow it.
Yeah.
Because I think most of us don't allow it.
Yeah.
And anyone that I work with, I'll teach them how to build funnels. I'll teach them that online marketing. But fundamentally, everything that I start with is, why are you doing this? And what's your enough point? When will you know that you've reached an enough point of success? And it doesn't mean we don't want abundance beyond that. Of course, more, we love it. But it's coming from a different place, because we will shift how we work. And I think that's really, really important. Like, I really want you to understand, what is enough? What does enough look like for you in your life? What is important to you? What are your core values? And I think when you start with that as a foundation, you can build from a very different place than if you're building and letting other people and external noise tell you what should be important, tell you what success looks like, tell you what core values are performative and will get you invited into big rooms. I think that's really important. It has to come from you, because we do get caught up in that. It's very easy. We live in a time where it's like, how many followers do you have? Can you come and do this with me? And can you get invited into this room? And it is like that. And if you are guided by that without your own real sense of purpose and value and enoughness, I think you'll get dragged through your journey versus intentionally walking it.
Yeah. Before we close, the last question. People look at you and you seem like you are so articulate. I mean, I'm really blown away. How do you navigate through your moments of uncertainty? Because uncertainty is a good teacher. It's not something we should run away from. So I'm sure you have moments of like, what the F am I doing? I don't know. I need help. How do you navigate those moments?
I have them all the time. I mean, the first thing I do is I make sure I'm resourced. So I have a really great therapist. I have a really great, open, communicative partner. That's really important to me. I have friends that I open up to. So I think making sure I feel resourced and I'm not alone is important. And the second part is I try not to jump to the conclusion. I think it's really challenging to sit in uncertainty, and especially as really high achieving women. We like to have a plan, we like to be in control, and sitting it with the unknown and the uncertainty can be really uncomfortable. I try not to jump ahead to the finish line, and there's often a lot we can learn through sitting in that. So I will try my best. I try not to numb out when I'm feeling it, getting on Instagram or watching TV. Sometimes I do, but I really try to be in it and just see where I can go with it. But it's always a practice. It's a work in progress.
Wow. So what can we expect from Natalie, you think, in the next, year? Where do you think your heart is going to take you?
Well, I'm launching my first book next year, which I'm really excited
Awesome.
about. So I think that's going to be a really big project for me. And I don't know. I'm so excited to be a mom of two and see where that takes me. I really have no idea where I'll be this time next year.
Amazing. I'm going to track you. I'd love to know. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us and for being so open and vulnerable. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Wow, Natalie is so inspiring, so articulate, so in touch with her feminine maternal instinct and also so in touch with her masculine achieving, doing instinct. And she just seems to integrate the masculine and feminine so beautifully. I'm sure this talk resonated with so many of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.